Hey folks, I was asked earlier this week in an email to do a video about forgiving ourselves. And in a previous video today, I made mention of some of those folks that are witnesses in the murder trial for the former police officer who killed George Floyd. That they seem to be describing some really deep feelings of regret and remorse that they didn't do enough. That they didn't do enough to help out, that if they had done something differently, maybe Mr. Floyd would still be alive. Forgiving ourselves is often one of the most challenging things we can do. I mean, it's one thing that when we are hurt, we can look at a person who is outside of us and we can forgive them or be angry with them. But when we're that culprit as well, we're carrying both those roles. We're carrying the role of the injured, and we're carrying the role of the assailant, of the person who caused the pain. It makes everything like 1,000 times more complicated. It makes everything so much more difficult to unwrap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you a way I look at it when I do something that, not just that I regret, but something that I'm really angry at myself about. There's a theory that a therapist of mine once shared with me, and I can't remember for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. But bottom line is, she explained it that every human being, our psyche, is sort of divided into three parts. And ideally they would be three equal parts. There's the child, there's the adult, and there's the parent. Now the child's all about play. They're all about fun. They're all about relaxation. They're all about laughing. They're all about, well, doing the things that we all like to do. The adult's the one that makes decisions. The adult looks at all the information that's available. The adult remembers the past. The adult projects into the future. And it's the adult who ultimately makes the decisions. The parent's the judge. Right? The parent takes what's happened and they decide if it's good, if it's bad. They take from it, they learn lessons from it, they file it away where it needs to be filed. The parent is watchful, the parent's looking around, the parent's making judgments about the particular moment. Now the parent and the child both provide information to the adult. And the adult chooses which directions to go. But when we are out of balance, it makes it very, very difficult for that adult in us to make proper decisions. So for example, if the parent in us holds more power than they should, we will find ourselves continuously in this judgmental state. Okay? When the child in us has more power than they should, we will find ourselves continually maybe doing things that we might think to be a little irresponsible. We're not necessarily taking care of all of our needs. We're spending a little too much time playing. And then it's how they all three interact and all three relate. And she went into it in much more detail. But for the sake of today's conversation about forgiving ourselves, what I do is, when I'm in those moments, I take a look at those three characteristics of myself. And I ask, who is in control? Who was in control when it happened? Well, the child was in control. Why was the child the one providing most of the information? Well, you were tired. You were tired and the child wanted to play. You were worn out and the child wanted a boost of energy. And when I'm feeling really, really judgmental, I say, well, why am I beating myself up over this? Oh, that's because your parent's being a little bit more active than they should be. And when the parent is hyper active, when the parent is hyper, then they are judging everything about you. They're judging everything about you. They're judging everything about the world. But the bottom line, in those moments when you're beating yourself up, it's because your inner parent is pointing the finger and telling you, you should have done this and you should have done that. And you wouldn't feel this way. And I wouldn't have to be telling you this. You knew better. Oh, those famous words, you knew better. And then what you realize is that when the parent is super, super active, the child becomes super, super defensive. And they're both bombarding your adult with all these feelings and with all these... The bottom line is this. I try to be empathetic with all three characteristics. I say to the child, we made those decisions because we were in a position that was really uncomfortable. We made those decisions, we did those things because we were in a place that you didn't want to be. We were in a place and we were in a space and we were in a time that I wasn't listening to you. We say to the parent, thank you for your information. I understand your point of view. I can make the decisions from now on based on that. But you can stop. You can stop telling me how we've messed up. You can stop telling me that we did the wrong thing. I understand. I hear you. I'll explain to the parent what was going on with the child, and I'll explain to the child why the parent wants to be so hard on us. I try to be empathetic with myself. I try to be empathetic with my parent's side, and I try to be empathetic with my child's side, and I try to convince both of those sides to be empathetic with one another. I know that this may sound wild, but it's good for me. It helps me to forgive myself. It helps me to see myself in a much fuller and more compassionate and more merciful and loving way. A part of me did not know better, and that's why I did it. A part of me may have known better, but they were desperate for something else, and so they did it anyway. A part of me wants to make sure that we never do that kind of thing again because it endangers us. A part of me wants to make sure that we all know what we should do in the future so that we can be safe. Creating these channels of communication between those three characteristics of my psyche allow me to come to a deeper understanding of who I am, of all the parts of me. And that allows me to let go a little bit. It allows me to forgive myself. One of the most important lessons that I hear in Jesus' teachings is our need to forgive one another, our need to forgive at all, to let go of that baggage, to let go of the guilt. We do something, we may have harmed somebody else. Yes, they're going to be angry at us, but oftentimes they've forgiven us long before we have. My encouragement would be that we genuinely, actively, intentionally work on forgiving ourselves. Open up the channels of empathy within yourself. Explore everything that was going on for you. Explore everything that you were feeling. Explore every thought you had about that particular moment. Come to a deeper understanding of who you are. Come to a deeper understanding of who you want to be. Remember that this journey that we're all on, nobody really knows exactly what they're doing, and we're all going to fall down from time to time. You have to forgive yourself too. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray you will allow yourself to love yourself. That you will allow yourself to offer yourself mercy. I pray that you will allow yourself to be empathetic to where you've been, to what you want, what you're feeling. I pray you can forgive yourself when the need arises. Amen.